Swayam Prabha. Digital India. Educated India.
Hello everyone, welcome back to my lecture. So today we are going to talk about cost and benefit analysis, especially in context of social policy and also for the public policy as a whole. So we really need to understand what are the costs involved and what are the benefits that we get it from any of the policies. So there are various ways in which we actually calculate cost and benefit. We'll discuss more in details. But then first let us begin with what do you mean by cost benefit analysis. The comparison of the cost that are incurred for any public policy, like some of the public policies are very expensive in implementing. Like for instance, some of the social policies, like say social assistance programs, social insurance programs, those are very expensive, and then we also have to understand what are the benefits that we get from those policies while defining any sort of measures, like any sort of programs, missions that we when we design, then what kind of benefits, and these benefits could be tangible benefits, which can be intangible benefits, especially from the public goods projects, to decide whether they should be undertaken or not. So it is not that cost and benefit analysis that we always calculate after the implementations of the program, but then even before the designing, as we already discussed in one of our initial lectures, that calculating cost and benefit are very important. And in that particular context, we also discussed about what are the opportunity cost and how we should actually calculate opportunity cost. So trade-off is very important to understand there while calculating cost. So in this particular cost benefit analysis, as I mentioned, that this is not at the time of implementations. Even while framing the public policy, it is very necessary to calculate cost that are involved and also the benefit that we are expected to derive from the particular public goods projects. So when we are saying that public goods project, like any roadways, bridge, or say national park or private parks, if it is part of the policy, then or say water treatment plant. So those are the policies that when we frame, at the time of framework, we actually first what we have to do is we have to understand the cost that are associated with, and then what are the benefits that we derive. So in the cost benefit analysis, the another one cost that comes quite one really needs to keep this in mind, especially from the policy maker's point of view, is the cash flow accounting, which says that it is an accounting method that calculates cost solely by adding up what the government pays for inputs to a project and calculates benefits solely by the adding up income or government revenue. So here adding up income or government revenue generated by the project. So it is very important when we try to understand in order to understand the cost is basically the input that we are talking about, like in cost, like cost towards input, like for example input cost towards labor, those are involved in the project. Then after wage rate calculation, so entire labor cost or entire cost towards labor engagement, that needs to be accounted. Likewise, all other inputs that are involved in constructing bridge or say public hospitals or public educations, or for instance schools, primary schools, or any other higher institutions or universities. So we are basically supposed to calculate all the raw materials, including land, labor, and capital, and then and that needs to be included in the project. And that also we also have to understand what kind of benefits that we are actually getting out of it as a revenue, as a government revenue from the project. So that is what project should account for all the costs that are associated to the project. So opportunity cost that we already discussed, I'd like to again highlight, as we also mentioned in our earlier lectures, that opportunity cost is the one that is very important, because that gives us to understand the trade-off method, how much we are giving up in order to get another one extra unit of the output. So and then this concept is very important throughout the economic analysis of the public policy. So in this particular, like in the cost and benefit analysis, generally this opportunity cost we calculate and here in this particular context, opportunity cost is referred as the social marginal cost, like SMC we already discussed in with regard to externalities of any resources. Is the value of that resource in its next best use. So this is what we consider opportunity cost here. This is how opportunity cost can be referred, especially especially when we address about the externalities with regard to resources. It could be air, it could be water. So here in this particular context, social marginal cost needs to be taken into account while understanding opportunity cost, especially in the public policy framework. So now in public policies context, especially cost and benefit analysis, what is important is to understand social welfare. Especially when we talk about welfare economics, it is very important to understand what is the welfare functions for the society that will give the entire utility framework, both at the individual's level and as well as at the society's level. So that is very important for us to understand. And this social welfare function is also very important while understanding equity and efficiency, that we will be talking much more in details in our ensuing lectures. So what is social welfare function? So it is a function that combines individual the utility function of all that we are getting it from all the individuals into an overall social utility function. So this is the concept, the similar concept that we also get it in context of market demand, is like horizontal summation of all the demand from the individual consumers. So that is what we got it in the demand function. So in the utility, market utility also gets defined from the summation of the all individual utility, like the similar kind of context or the concept that we use here while defining overall social welfare functions, where utility functions of all the individuals that will be counted or that will be taken into account into an overall social utility functions. So how social utility function should look like? So like, say if I put it like social welfare function, that we can write as, say, utility function of U1, U2, U3, and then say n number of population that are there in the nation or in the society. So combining all of their utility functions, we can actually make it like social welfare function should be function of all the utility. So in simple terms, we can also write as, like, say summation of like U1 plus U2 plus U3 plus up to UN. So this is like overall social welfare function of utility of any particular commodities or any particular policy that are meant for all of the populations in the society. So in this particular context, I'd like to highlight Rawlsian social welfare function. It has come from the philosopher John Rawls, and it says that particular social welfare function is like another form of social welfare function is called Rawlsian social welfare function that we can actually highlight. What does that mean? It says that society's goal should be maximize the well-being of its worst of member. So in Pareto efficiency debate, we already discussed about who are getting worse off and who are getting better off. So in Pareto improvement also we spoke about that if we get better off outcome without compromising even someone worse off. So that is what the Pareto improvement and Pareto efficiency concept. So here what we get it from Rawlsian's social welfare function. It says that maximize, like just like the utility maximization conditions, like you just maximize the well-being of its worst of member. So in Rawlsian's social welfare function, we can write that if this is Rawlsian, then we have to minimize the utility function from the well-being of its worst of members. Like it is all about the trade-off. If in context of opportunity cost, if we bring that, so if I want to provide from the society's point of view, if someone wants to be in the worse better position at the cost of others, so we have to take care of those worst of members and try to minimize their utility from the social welfare point of view. That is the Rawlsian's way of defining social welfare functions, where general social welfare function is just nothing, is basically summation of all the utility of all the individuals from the society. And here in case of Rawlsians, if we draw from the idea from Pareto efficiency, it talks about nothing, is basically utility of the all worst of members from the society, consider them and then try to minimize that particular utility, then automatically there will not be any further cost involved there. So that is basically Rawlsian's way of social welfare functions. So now let's move further, and then how to calculate the value of the cost or the benefit, like how do we calculate. So there are different ways in which we calculate. One famous method that we consider in calculating value, whether it is cost or whether it is benefits, so it is basically present discounted value, what we call PDV, and this is basically measuring future cost. This is what we calculate when we invest some money in the bank, and then we always look for the rate of interest, and that's how we try to understand. So let's take a example, like this definition that I have taken from Jonathan Gruber's book. So any standard book will give you the definition, like what is the present discounted value. So value of each period's dollar amount in today's term. It's like let us just take the example, like say I have 1000 rupees or $1000 and I want to save in the bank, or I also have another one option, that if somebody asks me for 1,000 rupees or $1,000, if somebody wants to borrow, and then say that I'll return this $1,000 dollars or 1,000 rupees after 1 year. So generally from economics point of view, if we calculate the value, so deal is, of course, I should not give it, or you should not give that, because it is like for one year, if you are just lending that 1,000 rupees or $1,000 without any rate of interest, it is basically not the you are not gaining anything after 1 year. But if you if you keep that 1,000 rupees or $1,000 in the bank, then if bank gives you better rate of interest, then of course future value of 1,000 rupees or $1,000 will be much more higher as compared to if you lend anybody without any rate of interest. So deal is, of course, one should not give. So when we keep the money, or if when we kind of imagine from the policy public policy makers, so what kind of cost or what kind of benefit, it is very important we should definitely calculate considering the time frame. And then present discounted value method can give you that one of the ways in which you can actually or policymakers can actually calculate. So how do we how do we measure that let us actually see. So so present value, so this could be like, say, return like at the 0 period, and then say return in the first, and then 1 plus say rate of interest for the first period, and then R2 is like 1 per plus R, then to the power square 1 plus R square plus R3 is like return that we are getting it in the third year is like 1 plus R to the power 3. Likewise, if it is T is a time that you are keeping that $1,000 or rupees for T time, then certainly return like RT you will get, and then here this is what you will get it. So this is what how we get it. So this is the present discounted value, how we calculate. So certainly R is rate of, say here, return, and then capital R1 for instance, or capital RI is basically nothing, is the future return that we are expecting from the present investment, and of course I equals to 1 2, say here is T. So this is how we kind of we calculate present discounted value. Okay, so let's move to the next point, like we also need to calculate that is very important, like benefit cost ratio. So following the present discounted value, the same method we can also follow to calculate benefit and also the cost. So let us first calculate the benefit, like what is the benefit here. So present, say present value for say commodity X, say for any commodity, like say benefit and cost for commodity, say commodity X, and X could be anything. X could be any public project, public good project. So B, and for X, so this will be like benefit. First let us understand benefit. So here for B naught is the time and X is the commodity, and then 1 plus R, like BX1 plus BX2 1 plus R square plus BX 3 by 1 plus R 3 plus Bx, say t period, right, by 1 plus R to the power t. So as a student of economics, you already know this, present discounted value, how we calculate. So we are not getting much more in details about how we calculate. So we are just, borrowing that particular, method to understand how this also can be used while calculating benefit and cost, especially in case of public policy measurement, and also to kind of evaluate and while monitoring, and also to understand whether this particular project that we have introduced, public policy project, whether it is effective or not. So again, public is like present value is for the cost, say like we can also refer as Bx, and here we can write as Cx, and here is the cost that we are talking about for the commodity X. So for the same commodity, that first we calculated the benefit, like say equation 1, and then here we write, we get present value, present discounted value calculations. With that we get the cost, and then C2x 1 plus R square plus C3x 1 plus R to the power 3, and then likewise cost at tth period will be Cxt by 1 plus R to the power t. So this is say equation 2. When we calculate this, so it's basically when we try to understand what is the benefit, then we get total overall present discounted value for say X is basically the difference between benefit and cost. So we get plus B2x minus C2x divided by 1 plus R square, plus likewise we get Btx minus Ctx divided by 1 plus R to the power t. So this is what overall the net return that we get it after calculating the difference between benefit and cost, and therefore from here we can easily get it B to C ratio, because we have already calculated benefit and we also have calculated cost, and then we get the ratio. So if B by C ratio is more than 1, it's like we are getting more benefit than the cost, and then certainly that project should be running, and or that project should be public sector project, public goods project should be implemented. So it is, in short, is basically B benefit is higher than C, right? So this is what we get it from the benefit to cost ratio of public policy measures. So now if we see from the measuring the benefits of the public policies point of view, there are different ways in which we actually value the trade-offs. Certainly one way, I'm just sort of summarizing whatever we have discussed and whatever we have gathered knowledge from our learning so far. So valuing trade-off is one of the most important points to understand what is the benefit and the cost. As I said in one of my initial lectures that for public policy, and also in particular public policy in particular, but in economics as a whole, in economic analysis, analyzing or critically analyzing cost and benefits are very important, and therefore valuing trade-off is one of the most important points of discussion when there is a resource involved. Resource could be for the public policy, at the individual level it is a constant budget. So that is very important. When it comes, then trade-off measure is very important for policymakers to consider, and that is where microeconomic foundational concept like marginal rate of substitutions, like how much I am giving up for getting 1 unit additional for the other commodity. So that method is very important to understand utility as well as social utility, overall social welfare utility, because that will give us to understand the value of the particular policy or particular product that we are consuming. The second point that I would highlight, and which we already actually discussed quite at length, is like calculating consumer surplus and the producer surplus. That economic analysis, like private economic efficiency point. Although from the producers and consumer privately they can reach at the equilibrium point where at the individual level they will get the maximum level of consumer surplus and producer surplus, but then it might not be at the from the social efficiency point. So whatever it is, from benefits and cost point of view, it is very important to understand reservation price for the consumer side, and also minimum price for the producers, to understand overall value of the public policy or any of that kind of commodity. So private cost, like for producers, it is very important to calculate private cost, which we consider as cost of production, like even for producing anything, even for the project, even for government, it is very important to calculate all the input cost, and then we understand what is the overall cost involved to implement any certain policy. Next is social cost, and social cost comes with a market failure, and then that is perfectly fine if if production is is being produced at the optimum level. So we always see that in the market failure conditions where equilibrium may be at the socially optimum level, but then there is no optimum level of production. It could be either say overproduction or underproduction, that is fine, but then it is very important to calculate social cost from the welfare economics point of view. So some of the benefits, tangible benefits, like if it is highway, national highways, then we see the road construction, we see the fastest move of the commodity exchange, and that is very important from the GDP's point of view. At the same time, intangible benefits are also there. For instance, modernizations or improvement of this overall education, primary education system at the village level, because there is a pakka road, constructed road, concrete road there. Although road is constructed because of for the better mobility for the goods and services, but then as a overall social welfare's point of view, children's I mean girls and boys, they are also easily accessing the bus to access their upper primary education or higher educations. So that also having intangible benefits which is very long lasting overall positive growth in the public policies point of view. So these are the broad 6 points that I thought that I'll be discussing while talking about benefits and how we measure benefits in context of public policy. So I stop here today in this lecture, and thank you very much for your attentions. And then you can see these two references for further clarity or further reference. Thank you very much.